Hi, I'm Danny 𝗦𝘂𝗧.
And I'm Jason Burns.
And this is the What About podcast.
Danny, I'm pretty happy that we don't have smell-o-vision because I just did a big bowl of garlic pasta before dinner, before we got on with my dinner. And oh my God, I feel bad. I could induce pregnancy in a pregnant moose right now. My breath is so garlicky.
You could probably repel vampires right now.
I could.
Well, I'm excited about today's show. We have Marisa Coughlan, who's going to talk about Reinvention.
Her film Super Troopers 3 is in theaters now. I'm a huge Super Troopers fan, so I was excited to see a third movie come out into the world.
You were so fangirling on the Super Troopers. It was great. And then our second guest is Dr. Greg Jackson, who's fascinatingly going to talk about history repeating itself. His latest book is Been There, Done That: How History Shows What We Can Overcome.
And then our musical guest is Sunken Man performing the single Hearts.
All right. Well, here she is from Minnesota, Marisa Coughlan.
Today we're joined by Marisa Coughlan, who is in one of my favorite movies of all time, Super Troopers. I'm even rocking the Vermont State mustache, trooper mustache here. And today, Marisa is going to talk with us about Reinvention. Her new film, Super Troopers 3, is coming out this August. Marisa, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So the first question I wanted to ask you, I just jump right in. I hope that's okay.
Do it. Bring it.
The first question is, when it comes to your reinvention, which to let the people that don't really know is you essentially went from being a very successful actress to now a very successful writer and mother living in your hometown. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes. We're in Minneapolis, 4 kids. Yes.
I mean, having been here, and I read a little bit about your life and experience living in, a very industry related part of Los Angeles, which you were living in. And now that you've been in Minnesota, what is the biggest adjustment? Because you had children here, did you not?
I had 3 kids there and 1 here.
Sure.
I mean, honestly, the hardest part was that I felt like because, when you're a new mom and you've got 4 kids, you just like don't even remember anything about your old life. You're like, did I ever do anything? And then we moved here and like, I didn't have any of my creative friends. I didn't have any of it. And I literally felt like, did I dream that I moved to LA and became an actress and had a career? Because I all of a sudden was like here on walks in this neighborhood in Minneapolis, like what happened? And so
that never happened. You just woke up one day and then you were an adult and you were a mom in Minneapolis all of a sudden.
It's like Dorothy leaving Oz and going back to Kansas.
Totally. And there were good aspects of that and bad. And for me, like part of the reason Reinvention interests me is that it was really upon me to figure out, okay, I had this amazing chapter in LA. I have this amazing chapter here. How do I bridge the gap and like create the next chapter that I want to be both? Because it was really isolating and hard to not have the creative. I mean, I was writing from here, but I mean, literally to the point where you guys will appreciate this. When we first moved back, somebody was like, so what do you do for a living? And I was like, oh, I'm in the business. And they were like,
and they're like, I'm sorry, what business?
I'm like,
of what business are you speaking?
I just got so used to being out there. I was out there my whole adult life. Like there is no other business. And here people don't care. They don't go to the, I mean, they're just such a different world where they're immersed in what they do for a living. And they're not nearly as interested and engaged in what movies coming out and what TV shows. I mean, there are a few people, but I felt very isolated here. And then, a few years ago, I made a movie here and I really sort of did bridge that gap. And then it's been great because it's also been, Super Troopers 3. And so it's not just, it's like I get to write and act and produce and do all the things at once, which has been wonderful.
Has being home enabled you to I guess, write without the distractions of the industry to say, okay, I got to go out and do this. I got to have this lunch. There's always a lunch. There's always, let's grab some drinks. There's always something. Has being home given you more freedom to just be with your own creative imagination?
I feel a little bit less like a cliche. Like when my kids were really little, I would go sit at a coffee shop and I'd be like, I'm probably the only one in here writing a script right now. Whereas in LA, you're like just a sea of people writing the next script.
Everyone is writing a script.
Totally.
I have what I was interested in is that at some point everybody lands at Reinvention is tortured at their current state before Reinvention becomes something of a real sort of guiding light and go, okay, there's the direction I can go in. Can you talk a little bit about, as you were leading to making a decision, or the decision was made for you? I don't know which one. I'm interested in hearing about both. The emotional difficulty of it, and then where the relief came from when you sort of started to piece together what could change. I hope that's clear, about as clear as mud, but I think you get the point.
Well, it's like even down to social media, which, of course we all have a love-hate with. I was living here. I didn't have a social media that had anything to do with my career. And it just compounded my feeling of like, did any of that even ever happen? And so part of it was I was feeling really stuck. And my movie Blue-Eyed Girl is really, in many ways, it's not autobiographical because much of it is made up, but thematically it was really reflective of the way I was feeling, which was stuck. And I feel like it's middle age, which I hate to put myself in that category, but we probably all technically live there right now, there's almost like an epidemic of feeling sort of stuck. Like, okay, my career is here, my marriage is here, my kids are here, but like the drive to chase new dreams and do new things and what's the next thing is kind of not really discussed or encouraged. And I sort of felt like, oh my God, is this it? Like, I don't know. I feel like
did you feel like it's too late to start anything?
No, and that's the problem is I feel like we are all kind of told it's a little late to start something new. And I think it was on me to be like, okay, maybe it's not too late to start something new. And maybe I will feel less kind of like, I mean, honestly, I feel like a lot of people feel depressed when actually they're just a little bit bored because midlife, you're not really told to go chase new things. And yet we all kind of need to forever, I think. And so I was feeling stuck. I wrote the movie. I made the movie. And then it did kind of unlock a certain amount. I started putting myself out there on social media. I started doing like sort of some comedy bits and finding some comedic actory friends here, and also just being more brave. And I think, I was so brave as a younger person and out auditioning and just chasing it. And it's like I read somewhere, courage is a muscle, and that the more you use it, the more you're kind of trained to be good at it. And I'd gotten out of it. I wasn't auditioning. I was auditioning on tape in my basement. Like, that's terrible. So I do think I sort of had to force myself out of my comfort zone, and that it's been the best thing.
Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
Is part of that, I think a lot of people, they don't want to take the leap to try new things because and you kind of touched on this with like, we're kind of ingrained into us that once things are going a certain way, we go that way. Do you think self-doubt plays any part of that in terms of like, well, I can't go do this because I'm a little unlikely to be able to find my groove because I am in my middle age?
100%. But when I was 18 years old and going to college, everyone I knew here was like, you're going to LA to be an actor. I was going to USC, but everyone knew because I was going to this acting program and I wanted to be an actress. And everyone's like, you know the likelihood of making it? And so at a certain point, I was like, I did know the likelihood and I did it anyway. And same with pivoting from being an actress to being a writer. It's hard. People don't want to take you seriously, blah, blah, blah. I did that. So at a certain point, you just have to be like, okay, yeah, it's probably not going to be easy. It's not a layup, but.
When you moved to Minnesota from Studio City with your 3 children, what were you thinking? Were you thinking like, it's over? Or were you thinking, I'll put myself on tape from here? Were you thinking, oh, I'll write in Minnesota? Because it's a huge move to leave here. I mean, I'm assuming, was this post-pandemic that you moved to Minnesota?
No, it was actually pre, but my husband.
Oh, okay, so even better.
Yeah. I mean, really, it was a real mix because my husband also grew up here and we missed it, and we missed, the way we grew up and the seasons and our family. And there were a lot of things we just missed, but it was a little bit before the trend of like, you don't have to be here anymore because of Zoom and
that's
COVID.
Yeah,
and
that's what's fascinating. Yeah. It's before everybody's like, oh, you can do this now. You're like, no, I'm doing it now when you can't do it.
Yeah. And I had a lot of people that were like, are you insane? And I'm like, maybe. But and it was hard. But the first year I was here, I sold 2 shows from here. I flew back and sold 2 shows. So I was like, well, at least on the writing side, it was pretty doable. It was still like, go drive yourself across town to audition. So it was limiting more so on the acting side than it would be now, because now no one auditions in real life, unfortunately. Even though it's beneficial to me, I feel like it's not great for the industry because no one sees each other, and it's just kind of like sad.
Well, that's a whole other topic discussion.
Well, kind of not, because I feel like the reinvention thing, it's like our business. We're at every single person I know is like, okay, I guess I'll figure out what I do with myself now, because it's just
every executive that I knew that when I started as a writer is now in like real estate or an entrepreneur. Nobody is like working in the studio system anymore, the network system.
Someone forwarded me yesterday an Instagram post by a writer who's done a ton of professional writing and blah, blah, big magazines. And she's like, I can't even keep up with like all the platforms where I'm trying to do a Substack and do this and monetize that. And she's like, I'm making 1/10 of what I used to make doing 10 times as much. And I feel like that's kind of how everyone feels in any creative capacity, which is AI, obviously. It's like we're all just sort of forced to reinvent ourselves. So
I was going to say, it's forced reinvention is really what could be the topic.
But like 𝗙ecie 𝗷𝗹𝗶𝗯𝗲 is in Super Troopers 3, and we showed up at the set, and I was like, oh, I knew her really well from COVID because do you know who she is?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Gorgeous, comedic genius. So she's really, really, really funny. But this is a girl who was doing stand-up and doing comedy and improv and all this stuff and really not famous yet, as far as I know. Young though, like in her 20s still. And when COVID hit, she was like, I do not know what to do with myself because I'm sitting at home with my husband and I'm not seeing all my funny creative people and I don't know what to do with myself. So she started doing bits on Instagram, literally like dressing up like her own vagina on her period. Okay. Like it sounds insane. It is a little bit, but it's funny.
And that's why it worked.
Yeah. And she made a name for herself. And now she's starring on a new Netflix show. And so
I've seen her live show.
Reinvention really works out well. What did you say, Danny?
Yeah, I've seen her live show.
Yes, she's so funny, but she literally
unique and hilarious.
She's hilarious. But she made that, and she made it by being forced into reinventing herself because she was like, I guess I can't go to live audiences, so I'm going to make my own audience.
Well, what's cool too, Marisa, is that as a parent, this was my experience, and I'll see if you had something similar, is that during COVID, I've always been a big animal guy. We have 3 dogs right now. My vet was understaffed and they needed help. So I started working there part-time as a trainer to be with the animals and stuff like that. Yeah. And my daughter really loved that. Like, I think that I was doing something different and she saw that you can do something different. And I remember one day at school, I was reading one of my books to the class and they said, what do you want to do when you grow up, to my daughter? And she said, I want to be a writing vet. And I thought that was so cool that she saw that both of those paths were possible and through reinvention.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do think I have a lot of friends who chose a career that was not in our business and they've just like moved right up the ladder and had a very stable, easier, I would say, life. Now, would I trade that? Probably not, because I get bored and I like the reinvention of it all and figuring out the next thing and going with it. But my kids have certainly seen a lot of that because my husband's he has his own company, but he also is a pianist. And part of what also inspired me with speaking of the reinvention is like one day in our 40s, he was like, I'm going to just start recording my albums because I have all this music. He's literally got hundreds of songs in his head. He doesn't even know how to read or write music, but he writes beautiful piano music. So he's released 5 albums and like done
That's
a
awesome.
bunch of concerts. His music plays all over the globe. And I'm like, that's kind of my point is that like, he just did it because he was like, if not now, then when? So let's
And
do
then
it.
if not now, then you get to the end of the road and you regret the not now. Like, why not now?
Completely. So our kids have witnessed a lot of that. I'm sure they're like,
but it seems a lot of people that realize that where they are and what they're doing is not for them and they want to reinvent themselves, spend a lot of time trying to figure out what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But to hear you say it, it really wasn't trying to figure out what it was going to be. You just started doing what you sort of you wanted. You just started taking action. Did you think, well, because I have some relationships in this industry, at least when I'm done writing something, there's a platform where I can have it seen, read, or there's possibilities? Or were you just like, I'm just going to write? Because it sounds like you've been writing for a long time.
Yeah, I have been. I mean, initially I just wrote, I didn't have kids yet. I wasn't married yet. I just started writing to kind of see if I could do it. Because when I finished, I was on a show. I was number 1 on the call sheet. You guys, I mean, Danny, it was like 16-hour days. I was just like, it was a really intense job.
Was it a network show?
It was called Side Order of Life. It was only 1 season, but it was.
The only reason I ask is like, are you waiting for July because that's when you're done shooting and you can breathe again? That when you're doing a show, that's what you're waiting for that last episode so you can like have a life again.
And you're also like, this is all I've ever wanted in my life was to like, have a show. It was cable, like my own show. Like, this is what I wanted. I was exhausted. And I also felt like I didn't have a lot of agency. Like, I just felt like I was the actress, and I was there 15 hours a day, but nobody really gave a shit what I thought. And I was like, but and I finished that. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to start producing my own stuff. I'm going to go find a writer and I'm going to produce some of my own ideas and feel a little bit more like I can advocate for things that stories I want to tell.
You have a voice. Yeah. You actually get a voice rather than, could you just look pretty, hit your marks and be good? Thank you so much.
Just say those lines, and don't mess it up. Yeah.
And I do think that's the worst part of this industry. I work in the business. The worst part of that is that people always think you can only be one thing, which drives me and has always driven me so crazy. It's like, well, we just know you for that, so we don't want you to do anything else.
No, you guys, when I started writing, I am right out of the gate, I got a show that was made by ABC, which was very fortuitous. Now that I've been writing longer, I'm like, okay.
People don't realize what a feat that actually is.
Well, now I do.
Well, but there's something about the naivete of youth where you're like, this will get sold. people sell shows all the time. It is one of the most difficult things to actually have a show produced.
Oh my God.
Rare. It was in comparison to the numbers.
So I had a newborn. I mean, it was like there were a lot of things going on when this show got made. But I went into Warner Brothers. Peter Roth, God bless him, who ran Warner Brothers forever.
Yep.
I'm sure you know. And I had just been on the show I was just talking about where I was working 15-hour days and I was the lead of the show. It was, I think, less than a year later. And I'm the writer of the show and I'm not going to be in it. And we're casting. And Deanna Maria Riva comes in. Do you know Deanna Maria Riva? The best.
No.
So she comes in, she reads for us, she leaves, and he turns to me and he's like, I got to tell you the greatest story about Deanna Maria Riva. I'm like, great. And he goes, we produced a show last year called Side Order of Life. And she was on it. And I was like,
oh, no.
No.
What?
That's hilarious.
No.
That's hilarious.
Compartmentalized me in a matter of 6 months into 2 separate people. Like, actress
God,
Marisa?
that's
And Marisa, I was like,
outstanding.
Peter, I know this story because I'm in the story.
Look how well you played the role of, showrunner, writer. Look how well you're unrecognizable from the actress of the show.
Yeah, apparently I really nailed it. But I think you're
Crushed
right.
it.
And it's hard because it was really hard for me to be like, not the second I became a writer, I was no longer an actress. And the second, then I went back to acting, and then you're not a writer.
Right.
And like part of the reason
and what's crazy is like the more successful you are in either one of those, the less likely they'll accept you in the other one.
It's crazy. And except for there are a couple of unicorns that are like multi-hyphenates that get to do all the things. And I'm like, well, how do I get into the multi-hyphenate playground?
But I think you're doing it. You're doing it by not giving an F, and you're doing whatever you want to do, which I think is the key.
Yes. And I think, Danny, to your point, that has been my takeaway is like, just take the next step. You know what I mean? It may not be the right step, but just move and take a risk.
Go in a direction.
What's that?
Go in a direction. It may not be the direction you end up in.
Totally. And it leads you somewhere. And like, it may not be where you thought, but it goes somewhere. It's better than being stuck, because I think there were a couple years in there that I was like, have I quit the business? Am I in it? Am I not in it? What am I doing? And that's no fun, unless you really want to get out. But I was not ready to get out, but I left it physically, and that makes it hard. It was just hard. And also phases of life make it hard. When you're 25 and all you want to do all day is drive across town and spend your entire day at an audition. But then, it's hard at different phases.
I got to tell you, in the midlife, like, I'm 48. I like to get to bed early too.
Children.
They achieve those dreams.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about not necessarily the fear of whether you're going to get the results you want out of trying a new endeavor, but can you talk about a little bit about the fear of how do I frame this? Because it to me it's that moment where you go, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to actually try something rather than being paralyzed. And I think that's what I really wanted to ask is, how did you get past, and did you experience, and how did you get past the paralysis? I don't want to do this anymore, but I can't move in any direction. It's so terrifying, financially, time-wise, creatively, or, is this idea self-doubt?
Right. Because I was so unhappy feeling stuck that I was like, what have I got to lose? Like, what's the worst thing that happens? It sucks. I'm embarrassed because someone thinks what I did sucks. Okay. Well, what if on the flip side, they think it's pretty cool, and then it leads to the next thing? I think, like I said, I do feel like there's a sort of epidemic of just feeling stuck and depressed. And, you look at a lot of people around me. I mean, this is diving deeper than you guys probably want to dive, but
we dive deep. Don't kid yourself.
Okay. Who drink their way through life, and that's not my path, but certainly I've had people in my life. I heard you, Jason, talking about, I think your dad got sober, and my dad got sober as well. And, I just think there's a lot of people who self-medicate because they're afraid to do the next thing and take those risks. And I was feeling just ill at ease, not being in my creative space and not pushing myself. And so I just decided, really, what have I got to lose? The if not now, then when thing. It's like, what's the literal worst case scenario? And COVID helped that, is that COVID was so awful and isolating that when that happened, I was like, okay, this is terrible. Like anything I do creatively and put myself out there or chase something new, literally the worst case scenario is that someone thinks it's not, I don't even know. What is it? Obviously time, money, all
that
those
you'll
things
fail miserably in public.
Yeah, I guess so. I've done that before. It's fine.
Me too. It's fantastic. Once you get over that, you're fine.
Right. Exactly. My daughter, by the way, she's away for the weekend, but she's going to be really excited because speaking of things, Super Troopers obviously has had a lot of legs, but Titanic, my God, my daughter who's 15 has watched it 45 times. She's obsessed. She's going to be so excited that I met you.
Yeah, it works. It works really well with that age group.
It's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like like our movie. The movie gets older, but the fans just stay young, or you just keep catching every new generation.
Well, you know, when something has, you know, when something becomes iconic, it's just fascinating to watch everybody sort of catch on the way they caught on the first time.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
and what's great is that you've reinvented yourself, Marisa, but yet here we are talking about Ursula still after 20-something years. So it's kind of cool that you're able to reinvent yourself and yet still live within that piece of success with Super Troopers 3.
Yes. And what a ride. I mean, honestly, like, I think all of us, because, you know, the guys are a couple years older than I am. So we're all in that phase of life where you're like, oh, and we got to like fly to Boston, be there for, you know, they were there for 2 months and make another one. And it was so much fun. And literally like you got to do your 20s again, but with the wisdom of your 40s and your 50s, you know, to like really have perspective.
The appreciation.
Really, truly. Like
And
if you got to
one of your
panic again, wouldn't you probably appreciate what a blast it was a little more?
I don't appreciate anything, but that's just me. I'm a miserable. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just a misanthrope, miserable person. It's fine.
But speaking of like reinvention too, one of your co-stars, Brian Cox, he not necessarily reinvented himself, but to be able to find that success so late in life with his recent.
Don't you love the way Jason framed it? Find that success. Also known as he was cast in something that did really well and was very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Again. And it's not easy to get a show on the air.
Well, you know, Brian Cox has done a lot. Let's look at his resume. You know what I mean? But like, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. And there is that. Like, there are people who, like, especially in our business, you just never know. Like, you could find your moment in the sun when you're, I mean, I don't even know how old he was when Succession hit, but you're right. He's been slugging along. And I've seen a lot of these guys talk about, kind of just like staying in it, you know, like
James Gandolfini is a great example. Like his career had not hit until The Sopranos. And then he always talked about that as how, as if he had given up, he would have missed out on such a huge part of his life. Yeah.
But you got to hold on tight through some of those ups and downs. And like I said, especially now our business is so upside down. You're like, I don't even know. I don't even know what it is right now, but I guess the dust will settle with some of these things and we'll have a better sense, but it's the Wild West.
Yes, AI will settle quite a bit of dust.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or we'll just be like this, let's do verticals. And then next week, let's do horizontals. Whatever's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, my whole feed is just like, this week, the thing is, and then I have people calling me being like, let's figure out how to do an AI vertical and this. And I'm like, I talk about the reinvention thing. You're like, I don't think my brain has the capacity to like every week do it. Like, I don't know how to do an AI vertical and figure out every platform for distribution. And it's just too many things at once. I don't know.
Danny, if necessity is the mother of invention, who is the mother of reinvention?
You stumped me. I didn't know there was a mother of reinvention.
Well, I was just thinking it could be Marisa after,
Yes. I mean, she does. She's kind of multifaceted. I love her.
And I just saw on Instagram today that her family just adopted their third dog. So, you know, I'm on board with that.
People. Well, I'm very excited to talk to Dr. Greg Jackson.
He's telling us just to calm down. Maybe we don't have to freak out because I'm always like, as you know, I'm always on edge. Maybe I don't have to be on edge.
Do you get anxious and worried and concerned about the future?
And I pass that anxiousness down to my kids now. So,
and they're going to have to learn to cope just like you.
Yep.
All right, here he is, Dr. Greg Jackson.
We're here today with Professor Greg Jackson, and we're talking about history repeating itself. Now, you can't have a social interaction with people today without them sort of talking about that the world is crap and it's getting worse every day. So let's start by clarifying your take on it. Is it that things were always terrible, Dr. Jackson, or that they're never as terrible as we think they are?
Yeah, it's also that, you know, everybody talks about these are unprecedented times.
Yes, unprecedented is thrown around a lot.
Well, Professor, let us know how you feel about that.
Yeah. So first, Jason, your question, it's yes, it's both. I don't want to dismiss the things that people are worried about. Like, yeah, they're real. Also, they aren't greater challenges than we've seen in the past, and they are the same sorts of challenges. Basically, we've got a world that wants to view the glass half empty, and
it seems we're all looking through different glasses too. I mean,
absolutely.
That's the problem.
Well, and that is the interesting thing, right? Is that we've managed to get to a place where perhaps both sides of the political spectrum, if we want to boil it down to just a left or right, which I don't like doing that. There's a spectrum, but both sides are kind of negative for different reasons.
Half empty gets more clicks.
100%. In fact, that is in my book. That there is a part where I address that. Sensationalism is the term. The news learned that. Media learned that lesson a long, long time ago. You want to get attention, you tell people that the world is crashing. And that's not a across the board slam against media. There are wonderful journalists out there who do great and important work, and there's clickbait.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, my son is only 14 years old, but he has even this sense of things aren't great right now. And my view to him, or my advice to him, is always, hey, we live in Massachusetts. Hey, we used to burn people at the stake. Things are better than that now. At least
it's a low bar, Jay.
Yeah, I know.
Step in the right direction. And in fact, that's some good perspective there. Danny, I do just want to note, you'd mentioned people saying unprecedented times, and an earlier title of this book was Precedented Times.
Yes. Well, also, I watched an interview with you, which I found fascinating. You were talking about the different gazettes and how it basically mirrored the way that social media is polarized now. And this was 86 or something?
Close. So this precise Gazette throwdown, which is chapter 1 of my book, this is 1792, 1793. It's the first Washington administration. So think about this for a second, guys. We couldn't get through the first president. We couldn't get through the great George Washington's presidency without the nation descending into absolute partisan bickering.
And these were all people that were kumbaya together just a couple of years before that, right? For the most part.
And Jason, this is exactly, I 100% get what you're saying, right? On the kumbaya part. But this is all part of what we miss in the present, right? A lot of smart, intelligent, well-informed people like yourself. You're given this sense. Go on. Okay, you got it. I'll just keep the compliments to Danny.
Yes.
They get this impression that there was this kumbaya even during the revolution. There was internal bickering and fighting, and less of it because, of course, you've got an external enemy, right? That always calms things down. But even during the revolution, you had Thomas Conway and Horatio Gates, both of whom wanted to be George Washington's replacement. They wanted to knock him off his pedestal as the commander of the Continental Army. And then you had debate within the Continental Congress itself as to what things are supposed to look like. So this is all the thing. And you know what? It's not just us. I have a quote from Thomas Jefferson at the end of chapter 1, where this is after this Gazette War. He's just a few years later, okay? And he's complaining that today, men serving in Congress will cross the street to avoid having to have an encounter with one another. And what a shame it is, because, men used to be able to just disagree amicably, and how we've fallen.
It's so funny. That's what you hear people say that exact thing all the time.
Right?
Why can't we just have a conversation anymore? That's what people say all the time now.
And the thing that just blows my mind is Thomas Jefferson is largely to blame for why they couldn't just have conversation. Like, he's romanticizing a past. This would be like someone who's lived through a war romanticizing the peaceful era of time at the front.
Sure.
And, what are you doing?
Yeah,
are you saying? And he is. because this is human nature. That's an important thing for us to remember. We always romanticize the past, right? You look back on high school or whatever phase of life, and you're so fast to remember the good times and forget the bad. And that's a good coping mechanism in a number of ways, but it's a bad one when it causes us to lose perspective on the present.
That's interesting because you hear a lot of people talk about now saying, oh man, we were all so united after 9/11, but we had to go through 9/11 to feel united.
And think about this again, right? So the example I just gave with the revolution, yes, there were fractures and tensions, but everyone was united by an external enemy. Well,
same thing.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Unless you're a Muslim American, then you were not united.
Right? No, that was a terrible, scary time if you were a Muslim in the United States. But that sense of unity, for those who did feel it, right? Well, it didn't come because suddenly Republicans and Democrats said, oh, you know what? The other guys have a point. No, there was something larger looming in their minds. The sense of a foreign threat, the sense that we're not safe even here in the United States. Look what just happened to effectively the cultural capital of the nation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So that fear brought us together. That's not how you want to get there necessarily.
So I don't necessarily. I'm asking you to be a prognosticator here.
Oh,
but
I hate doing that, but let's do it.
I know. Well, no, I'm not. Listen, it's pointed, a little bit more pointed. I'm not going to ask you to speak in general terms, but what I'm interested in is that what do you see in terms of the parallels to history as far as what keeps you optimistic?
Oh, now see, this is it's a great question. And this
Told
is
you it was specific.
Where, I'm going to flip this on you.
Okay.
See, I am so aware of all of the shortcomings, failures, challenges that the United States has gone through. And that is the point in my book. I'm not saying that it was chill in the past. I said we've been there, done that, and overcame. So I don't look at the issues in the present and say, oh, they're not that bad. I look at them and say, we've beaten this demon before. We know how to handle fake news. We've faced it before. It sucks. It's the worst. And we are better than it.
Can you talk about that for a second? Like the parallel of fake news?
Yeah, because it comes up, you define it in the introduction, which I think is so important because I'm sure a whole generation of people don't realize the precedent it had in the past of being an actual term with an actual definition.
Yeah. So first off, we throw fake news around like nothing, right? If you are a journalist, a serious journalist or a serious academic, fake news has a very specific meaning. And that isn't just that the media got it wrong, right? That whatever newspaper reported something incorrectly. Because pause and think about how human we are, right? I have found errors in the most prestigious of publications, both academic and media. And I don't say that to pat myself on the back. I say that because
you are a researcher.
Human. I am a researcher, right? So if anyone's going to find it, it should be someone like myself. But also, this is almost, it's a telltale sign between someone who's a real researcher and someone who isn't. I remember being a young grad student, the first time I found an error in a book published by an academic press, I was like, oh my gosh, aren't I so smart? And my dissertation chair is real quick to say, hey, Greg, that's going to be you someday. Right? And you're human, right? Like you're going to get 99% of it right because you're a careful researcher and that 1% is going to slip through on you. So just, remember a little bit of, graciousness. And the real answer in these moments isn't, you don't sweep it under the rug. You point out your own errors, right? And look at our best journals. They do those sorts of things. Retraction. We learned that what we said yesterday was wrong. There was a typo. You'll see those sorts of notes at the bottom of a web page. These are good practices. Don't look at those and go, oh my gosh, they got it wrong. Look at it and go, hell yeah, these people are dedicated to getting it right. So but back to defining fake news though, right? Yeah. So it's not that there's an error. It's not that there's even bias. It's that it is intentional misinformation. So it's not that I am, let's say, let's go with the two big national papers that are perhaps our classic examples. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, right? That's your classic left-leaning and right-leaning and trustworthy national newspapers, right?
Historically trustworthy.
Historically, right. I'm just making the broad historical.
Sure.
Yes, please don't send the...
No, send that. Go on.
Yeah.
Yes, so they have fact checkers and they use them. Let's say
like
that.
These are whatever your feelings are on them right now. Broadly speaking, this is how these two institutional papers of the nation have been viewed. So, of course, you're going to get a more pro-Democratic Party take from the New York Times. And of course, you're going to get a more pro-Republican take from the Wall Street Journal. That's not fake news. Fake news would be if they went so far as to make up things that they knew were falsehoods, not saying something that they've heard and believed to be factual, and it later turns out to be wrong. Right. We're talking intentional misinformation. Those are the two key words. It's just like libel and slander. We throw those words around a lot. I mean, they're a little more legalistic. We're into the phrase, I can get there, fake news, far more than slander and libel these days. But slander and libel will not hold up in court unless you can prove intent. Right? Okay. You have to have the intent. It is hyper-partisan, perhaps. You might have hyper-partisan media, but it isn't fake news unless they are intentionally misrepresenting.
So those who remember the days of Weekly World News, Bat Boy spotted in New York, that is fake news because it's fictional. They're completely making it up as they go along.
And it's fun that you mention that because I do discuss an article from the 19th century in Chapter 8 in which there is a newspaper article describing the Bat Men, not to be confused with the comic book, right? Man-Bat is actually the phrase that they use, that live on the moon.
Sure,
right?
The flat moon, you mean?
So they actually describe the moon as this lush, like tropical paradise. It's fantastic. Published in The Sun, if my memory of my own book serves me properly. And here's the crazy thing. They published this absolute fake news, and it pays dividends. People buy it up. They love reading about it. Circulation swells. And so, of course, what's the lesson? The lesson is fake news pays off.
So let me ask you something. In terms of, I think we can all agree the nation is polarized pretty dramatically at this time. Can you speak a little bit about when you saw it polarized to this degree historically and how we came out of it?
Yeah, I can. And let me actually flip it by telling you about the...
Stop flipping. No, just go on. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Go on. I'm sorry. Go on.
I want to tell you about the supposedly least polarized moment we had and how it turned into one of the most polarized within a matter of years.
Please.
Okay. So 1816, we enter what's called the era of good feelings. The two political parties that had emerged to this point. We had the Federalists and the Jeffersonian Republicans. We use that term to distinguish them from the later Republican Party that's founded in the 1850s. They just called themselves Republicans as well, but we'll stick with Jeffersonian Republicans. These are the two parties, and by 1816, the Federalists have just waned and basically turned into nothing but a New England-based party. They no longer have national pull. So that means anyone running for a major office is Republican. Sounds like everybody's going to get along now. And that actually kind of takes some of the tension out between the Federalists and the Jeffersonian Republicans, because they're just, you can't have much beef when,
we all agree.
It's just not a fair fight between the two parties. They're so lopsided. So everyone's a Republican. All right, great. Election of 1824. You have 4 candidates for president. They are pretty different in their positions, yet somehow they're all allegedly Republicans. And what this leads to is Andrew Jackson wins 99 electoral votes. He's got about 40% of the vote, and he is absolutely the
front runner,
the best performing candidate, but he doesn't have a plurality, right? That fancy word that means you've crossed the 50% threshold. So per the Constitution, if that fails to happen, then the top vote getters, and the 12th Amendment altered, winnowed that down to the top 3. It used to be 5, but down to the top 3. The top vote getters are now handed over to the House of Representatives, who gets to choose the next president from the top 3 vote getters, regardless of what order. There's no preference.
Hold on. So basically, once you land in the top 3, the House gets to decide who the president is. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Wow.
If we do not get across that 50% threshold.
Sure, which Andrew Jackson did not.
He did not.
Right.
He crushed it. He did better than anyone else. But when you have that many candidates, this is also when people say, oh, why can't we have a multi-party system? This is literally why we have a two-party system.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way our presidential republic works, you end up with the presidency not being selected. Multi-party system works in a parliamentary system where the House of Commons, or whatever the exact structure is intended to pick the prime minister. It doesn't work in a presidential republic set up the way that we have it. You really need to have two big coalitions that are having the showdown. So,
we learned, didn't we learn our lessons from things like Survivor? That even if you're on the same side, you're never there's always people trying to get their own little edges everywhere.
Jason, I think that's a brilliant show. And I have many a time, I used to watch it a lot with my wife, and I pause it, be like, now see, this is what's going, and she'd be like, right.
Yeah. So you got the three choices. House is picking one, and I'm assuming Jackson is pissed off.
Oh yeah, because he super doesn't get picked. They go with John Quincy Adams, who is far more your standard, what you'd expect DC to want. Andrew Jackson's this rogue Westerner. I literally has bullets in his body from yes, a man who duels, cockfights, drinks, swears, says if you can't come up with more than one way to spell a word, you're clearly not creative. That's how he defends his absolute inability to spell anything. That's not a guy that's going to appeal, despite being a war hero, right, that really appeals to the quote unquote common man. He does not appeal to the elites in DC. So they go with John Quincy Adams, who only got 30% of the vote, and now he's president. Mm-hmm. That is what leads Andrew Jackson, a man known for his strong feelings. That man loved and hated with equal force, a great force. And this unleashes the creation of the Democratic Party, which is formed by 1828. And in that election, the election of 1828, it's John Quincy Adams trying to hold on to the White House versus Andrew Jackson. And the newspapers unleash fake news like nobody's business. John Quincy Adams is one of the most boring human beings to ever occupy the White House. And I mean that as a compliment, right? Like, you want boring people in the White House.
Yeah.
Right? This is
was John Quincy Adams the one that was accused of being a pimp?
100%.
Yeah, that was
our guy. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like,
not 90% a pimp, 100% pimp.
Like a pimp, but actually was fake news. He was actually not a pimp. Yeah.
And that's my point when I'm like, I'm setting up with him being so boring, right? This boring is a guy. Very much in a committed relationship, but let's say he was single and out to pounce. He could swipe right all day long. He was not going to get any play. This is not.
It's not going to go well for him. Man.
Yeah. So the idea that he is a pimp, and what the newspaper said is that when he was in Russia serving as an ambassador for the United States, allegedly, they claim. I won't even say alleged, because I mean, they're just making this claim flat out.
Was he in Russia actually?
Well, he was in Russia.
Sure.
He was an ambassador.
So they take a little bit of truth.
Some like early compromato.
Yeah. and that's where the best fake news is, right? It's not just an absolute lie. It's a lie wrapped in enough truth that if you don't think hard about
believability,
and I don't even mean that you're dumb, right? The best fake news will be bought by smart people who don't have the time or interest to dig deep.
Intentional misrepresentation. So it's misrepresenting what actually happened.
Exactly.
He did not provide young American girls to the czars.
The czar.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I mean, latch onto that too, right? It's not just that he's a pimp. He is a pimp to the czar.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because the czar can't do it himself. He doesn't have enough.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, just pause and think that through, as though the czar wouldn't have the influence he needed. On the opposite side, if I may,
please.
The slams against Andrew Jackson, they're ugly. They call his mom a whore who slept with redcoats during the Revolution. His mom died after getting sick, taking care of American POWs.
Wow. I was saying that's amazing. I mean, that's how that's how they threw shade back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Your mom slept with redcoats.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's very funny.
Well,
sorry,
Dr. Jackson, before we button up, you kind of touched on this, and I just want you to, I guess, kind of relate it to today. Whereas nostalgia, how does that impact the way we view the present as it relates to sort of, we always have this sort of candy coated dream of the past where, why can't we go back to what it was like then, even though as a society and civilization, we've progressed so far that things have improved for the majority of people, but yet we always want to go back.
I think the issue is that we forget the hard work. We remember the rewards and we forget how we got the rewards. We've got to remember that this is government by the people, right? For the people, yes, but it's by the people. The phrase itself clearly says you've got to get off your back. Trying to decide if I can swear on your show or not.
You can swear. You can swear.
Good. You got to get off your ass and do your part. Like, it's government by the people. So you've got to be involved in the process. And, I understand the people who say, oh, but there's so many, hurdles and issues. I'm really glad that, as I do think that the American experiment is a fantastic thing. I really do believe in the best version of the United States. And I'm really glad that George Washington and the Continental soldiers, when they're down to but a few thousand men, their feet cracked, ill-shod, lacking boots, shirts, food, freezing in Pennsylvania in 1776. This is the time that Thomas Paine describes as the times that try men's souls. I'm really glad they didn't go, oh, you know what? There's an empire to take on. This sucks. Or that Frederick Douglass didn't just say, oh, well, slavery can't be defeated. Or that Alice Paul didn't say, well, we'll just never get the vote as women.
Are you seeing that? Are you seeing that attitude today?
Everywhere today. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Yeah. When you have people who say, oh, well, just by the time you get to the polls, that the candidates, well, yeah, why? Don't wait. You should be involved in the earlier process when the candidate's being selected. And to dismiss yourself as a non-player, you're going to be absolutely correct if you do that.
I agree.
Well, I wonder too if that point of view comes from the fact that as a professor, you're around younger generations and you see, because it's always the younger generations that don't want to put up with the crap from their previous generations, and they're the ones who put change into motion.
I see, I think you're right that it certainly colors my perspective. I get to see all of it. So I have very idealistic students who are ready to participate in the great American Republic. And I've got students who are convinced that everything is simply the worst. They're young and they lack perspective, right? So, and that's all a part of life's cycle. There are advantages to being young, being middle-aged, being old, as we
short list, but yes, it's a short list, but yes.
So I would say that, just as we're talking about how perceptions can be off, I have great faith in my students, and that generation that's up and coming. Older generations always tend to think that the up and coming generation, again, it's that nostalgia and it's the romanticizing, like, oh, we did it right. I think this next generation will do great, but we do need to make sure that they've got those educational opportunities and that we aren't setting a bad example, right? So us elder millennials, where I fall, and up into Gen X, we've got to be participating in the process and not letting our cynicism bleed down into the younger generations.
So let me ask you this. Did they ever ask you this question? Because you are, I would say, uniquely qualified to, if someone said, look, we want to make changes for the better and come through this. You've seen this country come through a lot. You have a real sense of what this country has come through. And we'd like your opinion, Professor Greg Jackson, as to the best way forward from where we are to get through this period. What might you say?
Yeah, so I actually do address some of this in the conclusion of my book. Now, there are so many different ways to approach this, right? And I'm not going to bite off major reform policies and whatnot. I'm really interested in talking to the individual. So things that you can do without being a part of some massive organization, things that you as an average American can and should do. And those things include perpetually learning. I tell my students, I'm so glad they're in college. Obviously, I'm pro education. That is my profession. But you're not getting an education if you just show up to college to get a piece of paper and then check out. I would much rather see someone who doesn't go to college and makes it a point to, even if it's only a few minutes a day, they read, they stop and think. They question what they read.
Dr. Jackson, what if they started a podcast called What About, where they just want to learn about everything? Would that,
I'd say they're going the right way. Yeah. I think that describes a demographic that's probably really intelligent, perhaps handsome, and very thoughtful. So
I guess it's not time to panic. His book, How History Shows What We Can Overcome, is out now. Wherever you get your books, you should go to the publisher, right? Simon & Schuster.
Simon & Schuster. It's out now. It's really fun read because he does deep dives into very specific historical moments that you can actually learn some stuff while also realizing that, hey, maybe the world's not going to end. You can Chicken Little the whole thing.
Can we talk about our musical guest now?
We can. It's Sunken Man. He's performing Hearts. He has a self-titled debut album coming out on September 25th, and you can get it then. You can listen to the songs now on Spotify or wherever you get your music, or you can just listen right here.
Here he is, Sunken Man.
Walked out the door as quickly as your love came through. Oh my dear, we can't go back to the start. You're the one holding all the cards. What's the deal? Are you playing hearts? Why do I have to die too? Why do I have to die too? Rise up, woman, and leave my life however you want to. Walked out the door as quickly as your love came through. Oh my dear, where are you hiding? You're the one holding all the cards. What's the deal? Are you hiding diamonds? Why do I have to die too? Why do I have to die too? Rise up, woman, and leave my life however you want to. Rise up, woman, and leave my life however you have to. Sunrise, what the hell are you talking about? I ain't got much to beat your head, but this I'll say only for the record. I ain't ever gonna be your man. I ain't ever gonna be your man. Why do I have to die too? Why do I have to die too? Rise up, woman, and leave my life however you want to. Rise up, woman, and leave my life however you have to. Rise up, woman, and leave my life
All right, that's our show. Thank you for listening. As always, next week we have Rob Morrow, who is a director, actor, producer, writer, guitar player, singer, musician extraordinaire.
But a lot of people know him from Northern Exposure,
Yes.
which was the biggest
and Numbers.
show.
Yep.
And Numbers, too. That's right. With the Backwards 3, right?
Yes, Jason. With the Backwards 3. That's the one.
I got it.
And Ashley Kahn will be on to talk about the album Graceland. I had so much fun with this one.
I got to tell you, I haven't stopped listening to Graceland since.
I talk a lot. I talk a lot about my experience re-listening to it again. So please tune in for that. And then our musical performance is the Lion Sisters.
The Lion Sisters, they're two, believe it or not, sisters from Massachusetts who perform these incredible harmonies. And man, they're going to blow people away.
So tune in for that. And thank you again for listening. This is so fun.